Anthony Joshua will make the first defense of his IBF heavyweight title on June 25th against undefeated American Dominic Breazeale. Breazeale, like Joshua, is a former Olympian, although Breazeale didn't do quite as well as an amateur as Joshua did. His most notable fights were against Fred Cassie, which is a guy that Hughie Fury is about to fight. A lot of people felt that Fred Cassie actually beat Dominic Breazeale. It went to the scorecards. And his other most notable fight was his victory over Amir Mansour. And again, I don't want to say there was controversy around the Mansour victory. There wasn't, but Mansour suffered a severe laceration in his mouth. He was actually ahead in the fight. He dropped Dominic Breazeale, but he suffered a severe laceration in his mouth, and he retired on his stool. And to be fair to Breazeale, the laceration that Mansour suffered, I believe Mansour had his, his tongue between his teeth, and Breazeale hit him in that particular moment, and he ended up, splitting the guy's tongue. So it's one of them kind of injuries. What do I think of this fight? I'm a little disappointed, I have to say. Breazeale is... Here's one thing I can say, and I said this previously about Breazeale. He does have heart. He did show toughness, mental toughness and heart in that Amir Mansour fight. He did not crumble. He did not get worried. He didn't get gun shy after Amir Mansour dropped him. In fact, he came roaring back. He showed real fighting spirit. But I've never been impressed with Dominic Breazeale's boxing ability. Let's not get it confused. He's a very big guy. I think he's about 6'7", 6'8", something like that. So he's around Joshua's height, if not a bit taller. He does have a bit of power. But other than that, and like I say, and he does have heart and mental toughness. But in terms of boxing skills and ability, I haven't seen anything from this guy that has impressed me so far. What I will say though is, unlike Charles Martin, who Joshua just beat for the IBF title, as I keep saying, Breazeale has shown that he does have some metal about him. He does have some heart and some mental toughness about him. Charles Martin's never shown that. He's never been in a situation like Breazeale was in, where he got dropped heavily by Amir Mansour. Charles Martin was never in that position. Breazeale's been in that position and he did come through, to be fair to him. But am I impressed with him as a fighter? Hell no. And I am slightly disappointed with this fight. I would have preferred to see Anthony Joshua face somebody like Johann Dupar. I know that's not the right pronunciation, and other people have tried to correct me in the comment section, and I appreciate that, but I just can't pronounce it the way they're telling me to pronounce it. All right? I'm not capable of it. My French is just not very good. So I would have preferred Johann Dupar, but apparently Hearn is looking for an American opponent to help break Anthony Joshua in the American market. Showtime and HBO are very interested. I believe Joshua is going to be on Showtime, but don't quote me on that. It could be HBO. But my understanding is that Hearn is having more positive talks with Showtime rather than HBO, although both are interested. So that is apparently the reason why Eddie Hearn is hell-bent on getting an American opponent for Joshua's first defense. And obviously, Johann Dupar is not American, he's French. So that might be a reason why Dupar wasn't selected. Certainly that's the reason that Eddie Hearn's probably going to come up with. Now, out of the top 15, because that's the pool that Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua had to pick from in terms of opponents, out of the top 15, there were a few other guys available. Most of the best guys in the top 15 are not available because they're fighting eliminators and they've got their own fights. People like Joseph Parker, Kolas Takam, David Hay, Kubrat Pulev, Derek Chisora. These guys are all preoccupied and are all having their own fights. So they won't be ready for June 25th. The guys who were ready, who didn't get picked, were people like Johann Dupar, Eric Molina. I'm glad it wasn't Eric Molina, by the way. Johann Dupar, Eric Molina. Who else was there now? Jarrell Miller. There was also Andy Ruiz was a possibility. So there was a few guys out there. As I said, I would have preferred Dupar. If not Dupar, then maybe Ruiz. If not Ruiz, maybe Jarrell Miller. If not Jarrell Miller, it's gone down to Breazeale. Molina was definitely the bottom of my list of my personal choices out of those fighters available in the top 15 of the IBF. Molina was definitely on my list. So I'm glad it's not him. To me, Breazeale is more acceptable than that. I think, and you know what? Some people are saying that Molina might actually be better than Breazeale in terms of skills. And that's possible. He might actually be a bit more skilled than Breazeale. Might actually be a bit more awkward. But I think Molina's more vulnerable in terms of punch resistance. Breazeale has shown, you know, he got dropped heavily by Mansour, but he wasn't all over the place. He wasn't doing an Amir Khan dance, and it was a very clean shot that dropped him. But he seemed to recover very well from it. So, you know, I personally don't think he's as vulnerable as Eric Molina is. You know, we'll see. Let me know what you think about this fight, people. Are you disappointed? Like I say, I am slightly disappointed out of the fighters that they were on the table for him to fight. Dominic Breazeale definitely wasn't the top of my list. Obviously, there's been talk about Berman Stavern possibly being an opponent, but Berman Stavern is not in the top 15 of the IBF. So Joshua's not able to fight Stavern because he's not in the top 15. Malik Scott is also not in the top 15 of the IBF, so Joshua can't fight him either, unless it was a non-title fight, and that's not the idea here. The idea here is to get Joshua's first defense of his IBF title. So those guys are out. They can't fight on that date because they're not high enough in the rankings. So yeah, let me know what you think about this, people. Are you disappointed? What do you feel about this? How do you see the fight going? Have you watched Dominic Breazeale fight before? What do you think of him? How long do you think he will last against Anthony Joshua? Maybe he'll prove to be tougher than most people expect, or maybe he'll just go out the same way that Charles Martin did. Let me know what you think. All right, it's your boy Hatman. I'm out.